Qatar 2022 is serving us all shades of emotion. We have felt the joy, the anger, the confusion, and the taste for more. The boys have been separated from the men, and it's time to talk real football. Of course, on our World Cup special, signing in is Onyinyechi Obaro. It's our World Cup special on News Central TV, and sure, we are here to keep you updated with all African teams making their showings in Qatar 2022. We told you before, yes, we're telling you once again that you will not be left alone. We are here to give you updates about Qatar 2022, serving us all the emotions you can ever think of. Of course, all the African teams have felt a little bit of mixed emotions, but all right, you're in good hands right now. I am Onyinyechi Obaro, and in the studio with me is sport commentator Kehinde Idris. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
It's good to be on here, and I think I'm having emotions already.
Aside
from World Cup, we spent a lot of time in the studio, but this is the first time for a long while, and it's good to be with you. Sweet after a long while, and it's the World Cup. Emotions are really pouring everywhere. I will give a confession on the program today.
All right, I'll wait for that confession, but I don't have a bell here. I would have just, jingled the whole thing around. But joining us from the United States is USB licensed coach. Of course, via Zoom, we've got Matt Ford standing by via Zoom to join us on the show today. Thank you so much, Matt.
Good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. It's 2 a.m. here in the US, so it's a little late, but I'm very excited to be on the show and chat all things World Cup with everybody. So thank you for having me on.
All right, now we've got from Egypt. We've got the likes of, we've got this interesting Egyptian guest. He's El Ramadi. He's an author for King Food. We've got Ahmed El Ramadi standing by from Egypt. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for standing by or joining us on the show today. Okay, wait for that response coming from Ahmed. Yes, he's trying to prepare the whole thing. When you have an otter in the studio, yes, you know that we're in for business today. And I did say for sure that we are here to give you updates of what happened, what you never thought of at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Yes, but we're going to be fixing our focus on African teams. So let's see our top stories right now. Now, for the very first time, African teams are having more than three, because we saw other shockers coming later running the group stages. So more than 3 group wins in one tournament, the FIFA World Cup. So when I did say Qatar was serving us the emotions, this was the emotion I'm talking about, the joy that we've got Africa. Maybe one day FIFA would consider increasing the number of African teams that will make it to the FIFA World Cup. Kenny, do you feel that way?
Yeah, because there is already talks about 64 format team. When it gets to 64 format, we'll be having about 8 there about African setting. Before it used to be like 3. Now we're having 5. And look, out of 5, we're having 2 promoting to the next level. But it's not even the promotion, it's the wins right now. I think for the first time in a long while, African teams really did bring it on. As much as there are even games, the African teams picked a point that I feel, and so many people also have that feeling, that we should have picked more, like Tunisia, their first draw, like Ghana
Morocco
against Portugal. Morocco also, I felt they should have done a little more to have hedged, that game. But it is what it is. They went ahead to win, like Tunisia beating France in the final game. Those were one of the shocking wins. And then the one that happened yesterday, Cameroon, Brazil, that's another shocking one.
First time
and then,
Cameroon will ever pick a win.
Exactly. Twice they met at this level, it's been bashing for Cameroon. And, topping it the most because of the significance at the end of the day is Morocco beating Belgium right there. And Morocco beating Belgium actually caused a chaos in the home of Belgium, although they always come out to say no rift and all of that, but we know what happened and all of that. So it's been a very roller coaster ride. And I was mentioning the emotions yesterday. Ghana got me emotional in that game because it wasn't that Ghana didn't play, but it was just something falling short of Ghana converting chances, and it was all about Uruguay, winning. But that wasn't the emotions. I watched South Korea play Portugal. I was watching Ghana playing Uruguay. And,
but that was the emotion, the whole chaos there in Brussels. But after the whole thing, when Morocco picked their ticket, being the first African team to ever have a clean record of, or even getting the highest point in a group standing, there was peace,
Yeah.
love and emotions being shared there in Brussels. But this was really, really not good enough for football fans because it lost a lot of properties, worth millions lost there in fire and all that. But let me bring in Matt right now. Matt, I would like to get a perspective from you. How big is this a historic win for Africa? How big is it? This is the first time we're having African countries have more than 3 group stage wins in one World Cup. How big is this for Africa?
Win for each team as well. A minimum of one team for a win for each team as well. I think is a big achievement, and I think there's a lot of teams that would have loved at least one win in the World Cup this year. So to see that every team picking up a win is excellent. To see a team finishing top in the group, a team finishing second, I think it's a quite a successful World Cup, I would say, from that standpoint. I think from the outside, I think the games have been exciting. I think the fans have been excellent. I think coming from an English perspective, we play Senegal very soon, and I think their fans and the energy they bring is kind of intimidating going into that game. So from the outside looking in, it's been really exciting to watch. The fans have made it exciting, and to see that every team's picked up a victory as well on that journey, I think is a really successful campaign. So really good strides in the right direction.
Okay, I did check out your stats, and I'm going to relate out here. It says in the group stage, the round 2, and we've got a quarter goals scored from headers. Great insight there. 50% of those goals scored were in the 6-yard and the second in the 6-yard box. We've got 8 goals scored outside the box, and also in round 1. That's in the round 1 of the group stage. Why slightly a different look at Group 1 compared to Group 2 or the round 2 of the FIFA World Cup. Can you make that analysis, expatiate more on that?
Yeah, for sure. So it was interesting when I wanted to take a deeper dive into where the goals were coming from and where the goals are being scored. And the first round was very interesting, seeing that none of the goals were scored from outside of the box. So everything was scored from inside. For many, that may sound predictable, but as we know, goals can come in all different shapes and sizes. So to see all of the goals being scored inside the box, a lot of penalties as well scored in that first round of games, was quite a surprise for me personally. And then as we look into the second round of games, it was a stark contrast where we saw 8 goals from outside of the box. I think Iran scoring the first goal of the second round in that way. So it was interesting to see that there was a big difference from the first to the second. I think the big thing that we saw across both rounds was the amount of goals being scored from wide areas and from crosses. We're seeing approximately 50% of goals being scored from those wide areas, where in the World Cup of 2018 it was around 25%. So it's a bit of a switch in terms of where these goals are coming from. And obviously with more crosses, typically you're going to see more headers. So it kind of follows suit. So yeah, really interesting to see the insights. I'll be really interested now as we move into the knockout stages to see if that continues or if it was just a short stint, or to see if there really is a change of the trend as we go later on into the stages. But yeah, a bit of an eye-opener to see where the goals are coming from and where the goals are being scored. And to see so many goals being scored with headers, with volleys, is probably a little bit of a different scene than we've seen in the past. So they're excited to see if that trend stays the same way as we go forward here.
Exceptional World Cup, the best ever. With these revelations, do you think we're getting close to that phrase, the best ever World Cup, Matt?
Yeah, I hope so. I think selfishly, I'm coming from an English perspective, so we're still in the tournament. So I can only hope and dream. But from a neutral standpoint, I think the games have been exciting. I think there've been some really close games. There's been some really open games, and especially the third round of games that we've just seen here over the last week. Just so many turns and curveballs in different games where teams are leading, now they're losing, now they're tying, and different teams are qualifying. So far, I've really enjoyed it, and it's from watching as many teams as possible and as many games as possible. It's been really interesting to see kind of how different teams have approached the tournament. Typically you see the teams with most possession and the most shots being the most successful, and this is a tournament where we've seen something really different, where teams with less possession are still having success and qualifying. And it's from the outside looking in, it really looks like that any team can have success, dependent on their style, if they can perfect that style, I suppose. So yeah, it's been exciting. Open for more excitement as we go forward.
Okay, let me make a revelation right now. Team Morocco, I'll bring in Kenny too. You have to join in this conversation. Team Morocco have been exceptional at the World Cup, but their success is not coming in one day. Now, they've got investment. They have three key things, which I noted here: the facility, the talent, and also qualified personnel for the Moroccan Football Association. You could see how they could change from Halis Zodic down to Waid Regragui and then bring back Hakim Ziyech. The return of Hakim Ziyech is a blessing to Morocco. This revelation, what's your take?
In 2014, thereabouts, Morocco set out a 10 years plan. They said before this 10 years gets to elapse, or by the end of these 10 years, we would have our male and female team qualifying for the World Cup. We would have our male and female teams stopping everything that has to do with African football. We would have our male and female team being the eye of African football when we go into the world, talking about the globe stage. And this is what they've done. The CAF Champions League, the CAF Confederations Cup, it's all about teams from Morocco right about now. The CAF Women's Champions League is won by ASFA, or you can call them ASFA women, beating the Sundowns ladies properly.
Tell them they're also hosting. They're being champions
and they're hosting. They were in the semi-final, the previous edition, which was the first one, and now they got to the final and won handsomely 4-0. No jokes at all. Then also the men won the Nations Cup just earlier this year. The men went ahead to qualify. They didn't win the Nations Cup. They went ahead to qualify for the World Cup.
Because I wanted to shoot you on the foot
and
now.
The women also did same. See, anything you want to achieve in life is conscious.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. In 1992 Olympics, the UK finished behind a country like Nigeria. And they told themselves, we'll go back to the drawing board, get our acts together, and in coming Olympics, subsequent Olympics, we want to do better than we've done. Onye, let me ask you this. Do you think there will be a time, or there will be a time anytime soon, that Nigeria will finish ahead of the UK in the Olympics? I doubt so. Because of the consciousness being put into growth. And that is what Morocco had just done. So everything we're seeing today is giving birth to some years ago, and they are still going. Can I make one more analogy?
Please do.
Some 3 seasons ago, a Moroccan club came to play one of the CAF Champions League games here, and they were talking to one of our own top, sport analysts, and he was so livid. And he said, when we get back to the country, in Morocco, we're staging a protest and all of that. Our government is not supporting us properly and all. And, our colleague asked him, what is that? He said, they give us $1 million for each top flight clubs in Morocco for, preparations, getting yourself ready and all of that, upping your facility and all of that. And $1 million is too small. I'm sure in your country they give you more than that. And he was asked, how much did they give your top clubs here? And this my colleague, who is my Oga, found a way to escape from the scene, because he looked at $1 million for a club.
He has never received even half of that.
Half? Even 1/10 of it. This is what we're saying. Why won't that club pay their staffs well? Why won't they pay their players well? Why won't their facility be in top notch? Why won't they take a chartered flight to come for competition? It is what it is. Everything you want to achieve takes growth. And you know how you got here.
Of course.
Proper consciousness.
Proper consciousness, and that's what the Moroccan Football Association are taking right now. They say a bet at hand is better than the one, of course, in the bush or even in the forest. All right, moving away from that, let's take it to our next talking point, and it is all about Ghana. Now, they say if it were to be England, the USA, Belgium, Brazil that completed 32 unbroken passes leading up to a goal, it will be celebrated. The trumpet will be blown all through the social media. It will be blown in the footballing world. But Ghana completed an unbroken 32 passes to that second goal against South Korea, that winning goal from Mohamed Kudus. Yeah. And nobody's talking about it. I'm going to talk about it. This is Africa First. This is News Central TV. I will have to talk about it. Remember that you say no South Korean footballer, the foot of a South Korean footballer, touched that ball in the build-up to that goal. We're not celebrating
Argentina did 28 passes some times ago and everybody screamed.
Yeah.
Everybody shouted. 28
Kenny,
uninterrupted passes.
Kenny, we're not
and now we're talking 32.
Enough.
We're not.
No.
And that is why I had tears in my eyes while watching Ghana yesterday, because Ghana were in so poor to have gone down 2-0 to Uruguay. I felt they were undone, and I felt their naivety really did pay off. And a way, 2010 came back, biting them again. But this one that you just mentioned, 32 passes, I think we should really energetically celebrate.
Let me get Matt here. Matt, you're good with the stats. This is 32 unbroken passes. No South Korean footballer's foot ever touched the ball when Ghana had their build-up to that goal. How big is this achievement, Matt?
Goal. And I think when you look at where the passes were, you see many teams when they're playing against a team that drops back have a lot of time in their own half to pass the ball and make easy passes. But these passes were dangerous passes. They were playing forward. They were breaking lines and beating players with those passes too. So they weren't just passes. They were really effective passes too. And we saw 17 of those passes were in what we call the middle third, which is an area typically where there's a lot of defenders. And then 8 of those passes in the final third, the attacking third, where most of the danger is. So it wasn't just 32 passes, it was 32 excellent passes from all the way from the back to the front. So it was really exciting from a soccer purist standpoint, a really good goal to watch. And I think the last thing I'll say as well is the space that IU was able to cross the ball from wouldn't have been created without those passes beforehand. So those passes created that space, and then obviously the cross and the finish was excellent, but that space doesn't get created without those 32 passes in the build-up. So quite an impressive goal from many aspects.
Okay, Matt, do we call this skill, an exceptional skill, or do we call it luck or team performance from the Ghana Black Stars?
For me, there's no luck involved here. It was all performance. I think the ability to be patient, to play forward, and when you play forward, the other team now has to run backwards, so they're having to move and adjust. And the patience to find that space was excellent. And it wasn't there initially, but after those passes to where they pulled them to one side, switched it and went the other, play into centre midfielders, play out again. All of a sudden now the opposition are being pulled apart in different places, and then they found that space which really hurt them on when they delivered the cross in from IU. So this is the moment here, I think, where he's got that little bit of space to be able to cross the ball in. Again, that space doesn't come without those 32 passes beforehand. So well played and well deserved.
So what do we call this in football? When a team makes this kind of a pass, do you think it's something that is exceptional that every single coach should be able to take from this exceptional skill from the Black Stars?
Yeah, well, the actual final ball itself, I mean, it's been a really common trend at this World Cup. Again, coming from crosses, but those diagonal crosses, those deep crosses have been a real threat this World Cup. And the speed at which he's able to put it up and down as well is right between two defenders. Those are some skills that take a lot of time to learn, and I think this is where we start to see the professional football players at the World Cup. They've got these skills and these abilities. So yeah, incredible ability, and the header wasn't too bad either.
We're hoping that coaches will be able to learn from Africa. Exceptional analysis from Matt, and I've been able to learn something, that these passes did not just come in a day. It must have come with a lot of practice from the team, and that team cohesion, you could see it in the Black Stars.
From the training ground right to the pitch, and and I love what Matt also said. They weren't just 32 passes, excellent 32 passes, and that's a good caption. And like you said, these are things that teams take away. And also, if you take a proper insight into the Ghanaian setup, I think they pass so well. It's a good passing team. The only thing falling short is probably the attacking role and the way they convert the chances, but they pass so well.
But do you think because they were not able to bond,
maybe
a lot
so
of
well.
Players, yes, came in just for the World Cup.
I think they have an excellent midfield, you know, championed by Thomas Partey right there and others. I think they still have a good crop, but maybe that bonding, like we always say, some teams are bettered. They look so good, but they are still coming. I think in subsequent competitions, this Ghanaian team is coming, and we'll see them even more.
We'll wait to see what they can bring to the table, but they have been shown the red card out of the FIFA World Cup, out and about. But before we go into that conversation, let's go to our thoughts story, and it's all about Andre Onana. Now, a lot of Cameroonians have said, especially for those who are football-loving fans, have said, I really do not like the way Samuel Eto'o is, governing the whole football association. But let's put that aside. Andre Onana was suspended from camp, even shown the back door to leave Qatar after a misconduct. Now, they say that they want him to change his style of goalkeeping. And looking from a legend goalkeeper who also was not called up by the Cameroonians for a game against Italy, he says there are more to this suspension. There is more to it. You cannot just tell a goalkeeper to change style at a tweak of a second.
He's a top goalkeeper. I'm not saying a coach does not have the right to, shape you into what he wants, in his team. But Andre Onana, we've seen him do it everywhere, from Ajax, to Inter.
Do you think Rigobert Song and Samuel Eto'o could have handled this better?
He called out the coaching style of Rigobert Song. I think that was the real break in the whole conversation. He called out Rigobert Song that this style of coaching is not, needed. Sometimes when you're so experienced, you're vast, as much as this person is a senior in the game, is your coach, you feel you can add a little. It's like having a Ronaldo in the team and telling coach, you can adjust into this because of what they've seen. And I think that is what happened.
Should they
like
have
you said,
handled this better?
They would have. That is where I was going. They would have.
Okay.
I feel so. Just like you mentioned the Hakim Ziyech story. If Hakim Ziyech were to be in the team during the AFCON, I doubt it. They will suspend him. They will manage him, achieve what you want to achieve, then you can revisit it. I think, suspending Onana during the competition really did cause a divided.
Okay, Matt is a coach, so he has been able to deal with situations like this before. As a coach, how do you manage players when you tell them, tweak your style a bit, just at a World Cup like this, tweak your style a bit, and they're not responsive? How do you manage players like Andre Onana?
That's a tough one for sure. I will say that I think in these environments where you don't have a lot of time to prepare as a team coming into a World Cup, obviously they have their league seasons or whatever it may be. So it's tough, I think, to really go into depth about the style of play and how they do want to play. So I'm a big believer that you have to build your team around your best players, and I believe that he is one of those. And even as a goalkeeper, they can dictate the style of play in a sense. And you've got a lot of tools at your disposal there to use to help the team. So I think it's hard to know the ins and outs without being there, but at the same time, you've got an excellent player that has some tools, and I think you have to kind of use those tools, and I'm not sure if they are being used or not. But it's a difficult situation, and I think that again you've got a very short time to prepare, and to see he's been suspended, during the World Cup was a little bit of a surprise, but again I'm a big believer personally, and you build your team around your best players. And I think there was an opportunity that may have been missed there. Hard to tell, obviously, without being there, obviously.
Oh, I wish Cameroon had you before the World Cup. They would have gotten this caution. You have to build your team around your best players. Now, let's wrap up the talking points. We're going to the deep one. Of course, we had Saudi Arabia, Costa Shoka against Argentina, but they were eliminated. Tunisia, Costa Shoka against France, but they were eliminated. Then came Cameroon, Costa Shoka against Brazil. Now they have been eliminated. When you cause a shock, you get eliminated. All right, we're about to go on a quick break. Kehinde Idris still here. Matt Ford still standing by via Zoom, so don't go anywhere. Our World Cup special continues.
Just needed to have the accurate person who would work the job. And Dede also broke their heart with all what he did, because Asamoah Gyan had lost a penalty with Uruguay. and he has also lost a penalty with Uruguay. So at the end of the day, they just broke the heart of Ghanaians.
We never get 10 coaches at the World Cup before. This is the first time. Yes, sir. And the 10 coaches too, no food, no water, only tobacco and pomo. Nothing. They don't do anything. They just come to chop, keke.
Oh, but the coaches were on attachment. They were coming to learn.
And attachment to go. Now don't say this thing. Attachment to do what?
To learn.
Tell him.
But they were learning.
Okay, make you learn.
I think we played a good game. We showed too much respect for the Portuguese. We should have done better. We were always defending too deep inside. That was, I think, one of our mainstay. Inaki Williams wasn't getting passes. You know, the goals were good, except that the penalty against us was very unfair. VAR should have restored that. And even if you let that one stay, then our last kick, we should have also been given a penalty. But you know, we were unlucky. Next time, we should not show any respect for opposing teams. Let's play our game.
Okay, I'm thinking we should have had a revenge with Uruguay because they broke our heart during the other session of the game, I think 10 years ago. But for now, I think although we were not able to win them by game, but we've been able to give them a revenge, which means we're in qualifying and they're also in qualifying. So I think we are okay with that. We are just okay with that. Whether we went or we didn't go, at least we are all going home and we are just okay with that.
So if you shock the world, of course, you will be eliminated. And that's what happened to Ghana, to Cameroon, to Tunisia, and also Saudi Arabia. All right, welcome back. You're still watching World Cup Special. I am Onyinye Chiopa. We've still got Kehinde Idris in the studio, Matt Ford standing by via Zoom from the United States. And now we've been joined by Egyptian guests, Ahmed El Ramadi. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for joining us on the show. Ahmed, can you hear us? All right, we'll wait for that response from Ahmed El Ramadi. But Ahmed, if you can please just unmute your mic so we can have a fluid conversation. Ahmed, are you there? All right, we'll wait for Ahmed to unmute the mic. All right, we've gotten that emotions coming from the fans. Yes, the one who got me was the man who says they just came to chop. That's what the coaches came to do. As the Ghana Black Stars had to go with some new coaches to the FIFA World Cup. Prosper Nate Ogum, the former coach of Ashanti Kotoko, and we've got Samuel Boadu, the former coach of Hearts of Oak from the Ghana Premier League. All were in the coaching crew of the Ghana Black Stars, and that fan there was not pleased with the numbers taken to the FIFA World Cup as Ghana has finally crashed. All right, let's talk about Tunisia right now. Tunisia were the first African team to crash out of the FIFA World Cup. Yes, they came, but they're living with their head held high after causing a shocker against the defending champions, France. But after that game, we saw the announcement of the top scorer, Wahbi Khazri, announcing his retirement from the international football, and that really got Moroccans really a bit sketchy and edgy there. They say, oh, this is our top scorer. What happens to us now? What happens to Tunisia now?
I think even Wahbi being at the World Cup was, having that last vintage performance, and it did. It's shown that no matter what the age is, a fine wine is a fine wine, no matter how old it gets. And getting that only goal against France also. So it's time to bow out. Sometimes they say bow out when the ovation is loudest.
So the ovation is loudest, beating France?
Scoring against France.
Okay.
Being at the World Cup, he had a massive 3 games. Well, because we had a massive, even in the last Nations Cup, he's been one man who finds a way with his age and all of that, carves a need for himself in the team and does well. It's like Cristiano Ronaldo retiring from Portugal today. Even if he's 52, the Portuguese team will still feel like a void had just left, and that is what Wahbi will leave. But for him himself, I think this is about the best time.
Okay, the best time. Let's hear right now from Ahmed El Ramadi. He writes for King Foods, and of course, and that's North African football, and we're hoping that he will give us a taste of what they feel about Wahbi Khazri's announcement. Okay, we'll wait for Ahmed El Ramadi. Network being a bit not friendly there. All right, Morocco. The next team, our North African team, we are focusing right now, and Morocco did what Nigeria did in 94 and 98. They finished as group leaders. Now, it's a great one to see that they had a spectacular performance. We did laud the Federation for having to improve on facilities, on personnel, and also on the players. The return of Hakim Ziyech being a good blessing to the Atlas Lions. Celebration in the air as they were so spectacular in that last group game there. Now, the encounter, they thought, when they did what they did to Belgium, I said yes. Yes, that is the African side I'm looking for. That is the fight I am looking for. And they came up again, going to Canada. Canada were also listed as the favorites, one of the favorites to the World Cup. But you could see what the Atlas Lions did to Canada.
From the very first game, we knew this Canadian team is hard to crack down. It's one of those teams that they have no respect for anybody. First time at the World Cup, but they believe in themselves. They believe in their own tactics, their own style, and they were true to it. And as much as they were true to it, it showed that teams struggled against them. And Morocco knew what they needed to do in the last game. Beat Canada, top the group, be in the next stage. Is as simple, and they got that done. Like you mentioned earlier, Hakim Ziyech, a massive blessing, and I saw in the tabloids tagged the Moroccan Messi. That's the new name of Hakim Ziyech. And this Moroccan side, I think they will continue to grow in leaps and in bounds. I'm looking at the African side that might just do what Senegal did in 2002, what the likes of Ghana would have done in 2010 and all of that.
Okay, Matt, thank you for still waiting there. All right, let's bring you into this conversation right now. We need to know what the Canadians did wrong. We could see they had a lot of chances, but could not convert those chances. So where did the Canadians, where did they go wrong against Morocco in that game? Matt, are you still with us?
Oh, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of credit has to go to Morocco. I mean, they only conceded one goal through the whole group stage, and that goal was an own goal. So you could argue it wasn't a goal on from the opponent, but they had a really tough group. You mentioned Canada already, but Croatia are no joke, and Belgium are in the top 3 ranked in the world. So going into that group, that's a really tough group, and to come out, conceding one goal, not losing a game, topping the group by a couple of points as well, was an incredible achievement. I think for me, when you look at the right side of Morocco, you got Hakimi and obviously Ziyech. A lot of teams in the world would like to have a right side like that. So when you've got those kind of players, whoever they play, they're going to be a threat, and obviously they have other pieces as well. But I think we're starting to see that the top players really, really shine and have an impact in games. So as much as there could have been things for Canada to improve upon, I think it's at the same time a lot of credit has to go to Morocco. And in the moment where it's the third game and they know they needed something to qualify, they pulled out what they needed to do, and not only that, they win the group as well, which is, again, with the teams they have in that group, is a really, really big achievement. So all congratulations goes to them.
Okay, let's see if we've got Ahmed Al Ramadi joining us right now. Ahmed, are you there? Okay, we wait.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. Finally, we've got you right now. Yes. We need to talk about the North Africans at the FIFA World Cup. They are making us proud. A bit of mixed results there from Tunisia and Morocco. Tunisia doing the opposite of what Morocco doing at the World Cup. But Tunisia were able to go out of the group stage with their head held high. Ahmed, looking at the performance from the North Africans there, what will be your evaluation for the games played so far?
Well, from a Tunisia point of view, you can clearly tell that they will be a bit frustrated, but as you said, they will definitely head back from Qatar with their head held high. Because the problem is they started their opening game against Croatia with a bit of a conservative approach, and they played a good game. But again, the problem is the lack of intent, that they didn't go forward as much as we would have hoped. And that Denmark were also they were great as well on the counter. They held also Tunisia well enough. But again, a draw in the opening game is not a bad result. But going into the next game against Australia, that's where the issue was. Because the problem for me is in the World Cup, you only have 3 games in the group stages, right? Yeah. And the problem is the managers usually, they kind of leave their fate until the last game. And you cannot do that. And in the case of Tunisia, again, I think they left it late. Because when in their opening game, he didn't start, he didn't go out. Also, the formation was questionable as well. Because when you play 5 at the back, usually the fullbacks, you expect them to push forward, and it kind of turns into a 3 at the back when going forward. But what happened was the fullbacks didn't push enough, I think, and also the most experienced player in Wahbi Khazri, he didn't start the first 2 games, which is another questionable decision by Jalal Qadri. And when he did start in the final game against France, you can see that improvement. It was significant up front. The way he held the ball up front, connected between the lines, and it gave them the advantage. But that was for Tunisia. If you look at Morocco, on the other hand, again, such a dominant sort of top of their group, 7 points, could have actually got more than 7 points had they converted their chances against Croatia in their opening game. But they haven't. But again, if you look at Morocco, I think they set a good precedent for the generations to come. Because right now, you can see that most teams, not just African teams, but other teams such as Korea and Japan as well, no one is playing like the underdog anymore. It's kind of a level playing field right now, and it's great and refreshing to see.
A level playing field. I love that last session there. So great to see that North Africans are really paving the way for Africa, to show that Africa are teams that you should not underestimate at a FIFA World Cup. Thank you so much, Ahmed. But let's now move away from the North Africans, go to West. And it's all about Ghana. Ghana said, if we want to be going to the knockout stage, neither can you. You will never go, Uruguay. It was a revenge mission over there. We could see in the streets of Accra. We saw pictures of billboards, of posters showing revenge mission. You brothers there with the guns saying, we are the ones coming with the revenge. We're going to show you what you did to us in 2010. But it did not happen that way. Destiny, they say, repeating itself. The curse is still there. Ghana can never have a good penalty against Uruguay. Be it with some Luis Suarez or not, they will still flop. Let's talk about this game. I would start up from Matt Ford. Matt Ford, we're thinking that the Ghanaians will take advantage of what happened in 2010 against Uruguay there. But it seems it all happened again. Affliction arising a second time.
Yeah, it's always tough in the third game, especially when you need to know, you need a result. And I think that last 10-15 minutes of that game was so open, and one team was attacking with 6 when the other team only had 4 defended, and vice versa. And it was a pretty crazy end to the game. And when you need goals, and both teams need goals, it really opens up. So, you know, if you play those kind of games 10 times, they could look very different results every time. So I think a lot has to be said by the how they went about the games. And I personally really enjoyed watching some of the individuals within the group. And I think they definitely leave the tournament with their heads held high. And again, with that third game, with the way that the game was going and that both teams needed goals, it could have gone any way. And it just happened to go to Uruguay's way in this case. But again, they must leave the tournament feeling like they've really given it their all. And on another day, it could look very, very different. But really talented group, and excited to see kind of how they do in future competitions.
So what happened? We've seen that lose penalty in 2010, and this time the Abedi Pelé son Andrea Ayew losing a penalty again. What happens to players when they have to have that long walk to take a penalty, and finally they get to lose it? What happens to the psyche of the player?
It's a mental game at that point, and I think a penalty shootout is obviously the most intimidating. But even just any penalty at any moment is big, and I think it's a big mental game. I think sometimes not the best striker or shooter of a ball is going to be the best penalty taker, or vice versa. Some of the best strikers in the world are used to striking balls over and over, sometimes without the pressure. And as soon as the pressure gets put on, it can be a different story. I think the success rate of goalkeepers is improving. I think they're getting smarter with understanding the cues and understanding where players are going to go. So it becomes even tougher than maybe what it used to be. But yeah, the mental side of a penalty is a hard one to crack. I think there are some players who are so cool under pressure in those moments. But the World Cup is hard to keep cool under pressure.
Okay, let's hear reactions coming from that game against Uruguay. Now, the coach of the side, Otto Addo, had to pen down his resignation, saying, "Okay, I'm stepping down. I did promise that I will be with you till December, and now that we are done, it's already December, so I'm going back to Borussia Dortmund." Now, having sat with his family, he has agreed to step down as the coach of the Black Stars of Ghana. Now, we've seen or heard two coaches drop the ball, saying they won't be at the helm of affair anymore after a disappointing showing at the FIFA World Cup. Roberto Martinez and also Otto Addo joining suit right now. Ahmed El-Ramadi, if you're still with us. All right, talking about this sack, do you think Otto Addo should have waited a bit? Just take the Black Stars more, even to the African Cup of Nations, and not just drop the ball?
I definitely think so. If you look at Ghana during the 3 games, I don't think they were bad, as Matt just said. I think looking back at the Uruguay game, they did have their chances. They do have the players. It's just that they need that final touch and some more consistency, especially from the defenders. Because if you look at the 2 goals they conceded, the way they conceded the goals and the gaps they left, especially when you look at Daniel Amartey, he's not a centre back. Again, some strange decision. I know that he's played this position at Leicester a couple of times, but from a Ghana perspective, I'm sure that they have other players who are excelling in that position. So in general, Ghana are doing great. I would have hoped that Otto Addo would stay for the African Cup of Nations, but again, it is what it is, and I hope they bring in someone else who can take them a step forward.
Okay, wait, but Ghana are still shocked by that news there. The Ghana Football Association have released a statement about the campaign of the Black Stars in Ghana. So we're waiting to know what they have to say about Coach Otto Addo's resignation. Now, let's move away from here, take you to what happened yesterday, and that's what I'm excited to talk about. Now, this man coming in to be the star boy for the day. Vicente Abubakar is a name that Brazil, the Samba boys, will not want to forget in a hurry. Yes, that was the goal there. He created that stunner there, and he could take off his jersey and say, "I'm the best number 10 ever." Yeah. Cameroon has never scored against Brazil, but here in 2022, even after taking off his jersey, referee El Fatah, yes, he had to give him a second yellow card and the red.
This happened not too long ago to Olivier Giroud.
Yes.
And after Olivier Giroud got the red card, VAR to check the goal. So I was like, my fingers crossed. If the goal were to have not stood, the red card would have stood. That is a problem. But I think Vicente Abubakar, or like the French would call him Vincent Abubakar, has been one person who you can call a super sub, or one of those massively experienced players in the Cameroonian squad that had come in and did his own bit, contributing his own quota so well. This game yesterday, they have done their own part. They were just waiting for a result from the other end, which did not favor them. That is why they did not move to the next round. So I think Vicente Abubakar, for me, I felt Choupo-Moting and the likes, even Toko Ekambi. I think for me, Toko Ekambi has been one of the most disappointing Cameroonian forward that came to this competition. I felt if Vicente were to have taken his place, getting the amount of minutes Toko got, I think he would have done better. But he got that goal. And like Shevchenko said some years ago, when this old card for taking off your shirt, rule came out, he said, I don't think the administrators understand what you feel when you score some goals. Yeah. And that is what he was feeling.
I did say that emotions are running high, but right now, let's tell you what it looked like. For the round of 16 of the FIFA World Cup, Senegal will have to be in contention there. Of course, they made it to the round of 16. Morocco, the 2 African sides, painted in yellow there, written in yellow. So we celebrate Africa. That's why we've got the 2 African sides there. There are the only 2 that made it to the round of 16. But the round of 16, we've got the Netherlands, England, USA, France, the defending champions, Australia, Argentina, Poland, Brazil, Portugal, Croatia, Morocco, Japan, Spain, Switzerland, and of course South Korea. Big shocker coming from there. But Portugal will have to face Switzerland, Morocco against Spain, Japan against Croatia. Brazil against South Korea, England against Senegal. We've got France against Poland. Netherlands will take on USA, Argentina against Australia. Now, let me hear predictions from Matt. Matt, what are your predictions for this game?
Come in a little bit biased coming from England, so I might have to skip that game. But I will say Senegal in particular just worry me a little bit in the way that they can score goals in many different ways, whether it be from set pieces or from open play or counter-attacks. And to be honest, England maybe haven't seen that yet this tournament, so that does concern me a little bit. Okay. But I'll keep impartial from a result standpoint for now on that one.
All right, all right. Let's go to Ahmed. Ahmed, what are your predictions? Let's hear your predictions right now. Ahmed El Ramadi, you're still with us. All right, let's go to Kenny.
Sorry, didn't hear that.
Okay. All right, can you hear me?
My connection dropped for a second.
All right, I want your predictions for the round of 16.
Well, I think for the Morocco game, let's start with that. I think Morocco against Spain will be a very, very difficult encounter, especially if you recall the last time they faced each other in the 2018 World Cup. It ended in a 3-3 draw and a very controversial late goal from Spain. So Morocco will definitely have a score to settle this time.
Okay, let's wait and see.
In terms of
let's wait and see if they would have a score to settle. Time not our friend. I need Kenny. One game prediction.
Netherlands, USA. As much as I want to predict the African games, but Netherlands, USA, I think the Netherlands needs to be thoroughly careful.
All right, we'll wait and see if that will come to fruition. All right, here we have to call it a wrap on the show. Time not our friend. Thank you so much, USMB licensed coach Matt Forde, for joining us on the show. Thank you, King Ford Arthur, Ahmed El Ramadi, for joining us on the show. And Kenny, it's all thanks for being here. It's always a pleasure to host you here on the show. We appreciate your time on the show. Remember that we've got you covered for Sunday. We'll give you updates of games that will go down for the round of 16, having to crowd the round of 16. We're going to be leaving you with what you missed on social media for the World Cup in entirety. I am Onyechi Obaro. Do have a lovely day.
We are all going home. Yes, we are all going Nine. Take one.
The failure for them to score from penalties against Uruguay continues.
We saw how the back we saw how not many of us had confidence in him, but he's demonstrated to us that he's about the best. So we can pick the negatives and the positives and place them where they should be. Move forward from there. There's definitely there's no Qatar Live here on TV3. Oh, you want to say something? Yeah, okay, so yeah, I think that's the only little joy.